Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we will be looking at loops. This is one of the most important building blocks of coding. A loop is just a block of code that runs repeatedly until a count is reached or a condition is met. There are many different kinds of loops, but we will be looking at the two most common ones today. First up, we will be looking at a for loop. The for loop has 5 major sections, that being the for keyword, followed by the iterator, then the condition that we are checking, followed by the increment, and lastly the code that will be executed if that is true. So let's go through each section and then we will explain exactly what each does. First, we have the for keyword. This indicates the start of the for loop. Next, inside the brackets, we have the iterator. In this case, we are using the let keyword to create a new variable for this particular loop. In this case, we are creating the variable I and assigning it a value of 0. Then we have the condition to check. Usually we use the iterator compared to some length. In this case, we are checking, is I smaller than 10? We have another separator followed by the increment section. As we have already created the variable I, we will just be adding 1 to I each time after an iteration is complete. Here we could say that I equals I plus 1 or I plus equals 1. However, JavaScript has a shorthand for adding 1 to any number, and that's the plus plus operator. This just makes it look a little cleaner, and as most languages have this, it just makes it a little bit easier to read. Following that, we have the curly braces. This signifies that all the sections for the for loop are in place and everything inside the curly braces will be run on each iteration of the loop. In this example, we will print the variable I on each iteration. Let's go through how this works. We set I to 0. Then we check, is I smaller than 10? If so, run the code and then increment I. Next, we check the condition again, is I smaller than 10? If so, increment and run the code again. This will continue on until we get to I being equal to 10. Then we will check if I is smaller than 10. If not, then the loop stops and no further action is taken in the loop. Any code after the loop could then in theory be run. Some notes on the for loop. You do not have to create a new variable inside the for loop to use as an iterator. You can use any variable for this. In the condition, you can have any condition. You can check I against some list of an array or against some other variable. The iterator section does not always have to be plus plus. This just means add 1 to the current value. You can increment with any amount. If you wish to print all even numbers, you can just say plus equals 2. This will increment I by 2 on each iteration. Next, we will look at a while loop. The while loop is a little bit different to the for loop. The while loop will run as many times as needed until a condition is false, then it will stop. Let's take a look at an example, then we will go through and break it down and go check each section. Firstly, with the while loop, we need to create a variable to check. For simplicity, we will keep it similar to the for loop. We will use I. As you can see, the while loop does not allow you to make the variable in the loop itself. This has to be done outside the loop. Next, we use the while keyword. This is just the start of the while loop. In the brackets is the condition. This is what you will be checking on each iteration of the loop. In this example, we are checking if I is smaller than 10. If this is true, then we move into the curly braces to run some code. Here we are printing I to the console, followed by an increment of I. With the for loop, it would automatically do this. However, here we need to explicitly declare it ourselves. Some notes on the while loop. The condition does not need to be a numeric check. You can add any condition here, checking if something is empty or true or false or any particular length. If the condition evaluates to true, then it will continue. If it returns false, then it will stop running. And congratulations, you have once again leveled up in programming. in the next week's video, we will be covering the last introductory video to programming. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching, and thank you all for the support thus far.